Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. I got to tell you something, people. Back when I started high school, there was a show on TV called BJ and the Bear. And I remember me and my friends all loved it, and all the girls we knew had a big crush on BJ. And the actor, a few years later, ended up on a great show called My Two Dads. And I was a huge Paul Reiser fan because I just started doing comedy, and I really loved his act. And my guest and Paul had great chemistry on the TV, and he's been acting ever since then. And he has a new album out with the London Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, recorded in Abbey Road Studios. And I found out, like me, he's from my home state. As they said in Eddie New Cruisers, we're just some guys from Jersey. My guest is Greg Evigan. How you doing,
Hey,
Greg?
all right. All right. How you doing, Coop?
Good, good.
Another guy from
So
Jersey. All right, we're in Jersey.
I grew up in Cherry Hill. Now you grew up central, right? You more central, Perth
Yeah.
Amboy, that area?
Sayreville. Yeah,
Okay.
Sayreville, Perth Amboy. I was born in South Amboy. I grew up in Sayreville. Yeah. Morgan. Went from Morgan. Remember Morgan? I don't know if you remember by right by the river, Raritan, what do you call it? Raritan Bay. Uh, by what was the
See,
name of that place?
I'm a Cherry Hill guy.
Beninatos. You remember Beninatos?
I'm a Cherry Hill guy.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
up there. Philly. Now, okay, real quick, we'll ask you this before we get started. Is it Taylor pork roll or Taylor ham?
What? I don't know what you're talking about. Taylor pork roll or Taylor
That
ham?
used to be a thing in New Jersey. People from North
Oh, okay.
Jersey get
I
that.
don't know, man. I left when I was 17. That's the thing. See,
Right.
I
So
think this.
let's get started about this album. I listened to it. I liked it. I like Dusk. I like Spirits Unite. I didn't know you were a prolific piano player. I want to know how you got involved with the Philharmonic Orchestra because it's pretty impressive. Like you don't think you think there's musicians, but you're playing with the orchestra. Tell me how the whole thing happened.
Well, it started out with, well, I wrote that one piece, the second one on the album. I wrote that when I was, like 17, 18 years old, you know? And so, of course, it grew throughout the years. But, Uh, it started off with me having a couple pieces and a guy by the name of Joe Coriel, who's a conductor as well as we wrote some songs together, some pop songs, and we were both with Joe Gottfried, who was used to manage Rick Springfield, had a place called Sound City, and so Joe put us together. Joe Gottfried put Joe Coriel and I together years ago. So we wrote these pop songs, and I was playing some stuff on the piano one day, and he says, "Oh, that's great. What are you going to do with those? Those pieces?" I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. To tell you the truth, I just play them. I wrote them, and he says, if you want to go down the Abbey Road, man, I could take you there. Because Joe had that connection. So he recorded there a couple times. He did a few albums himself. So I said, yeah, well, what would it take? And of course, he explained. So I got in, I wrote for 2 months straight. I literally took all the bits and pieces I had and put them together. And some things worked. And then all of a sudden it started leading. So bottom line is I wrote six more pieces, six new ones. And then, so we did the eight together. And that was it. Joe did the, orchestral. Uh, he wrote out all the parts, the 65-piece orchestra, and then we took the trip over to Abbey Road, and we did it. We did the whole thing in 6 hours, 2 days, 2 different days, 3 hour sessions, which is pretty tight because it's a lot to do in 6 hours.
So you got the whole Philharmonic in the studio with you.
Yep, in
Okay, and
the big room. In the
you
big
have
room.
6 hours. Now, do you start by warming up, or did everyone have the music before, and are they ready to go? Because you would think there's a lot of different instruments. It's got to be hard. I mean, how did it go about? Did you start playing piano and like jumped in, or what happened?
Well, no, what it is, when we went over, the way it works is, pretty much they tune up right at the last minute. Then there's a conductor, like the studio master. So he's he can kind of controls the session along with the conductor, and so we just went in and let him do his thing, and pretty much exactly on time, everybody was up and great sight readers. Obviously, there was a few mistakes in there. We realized, because it's the first time anybody did the charts, so that was pretty revealing, But they were great. They were very tight. A few notes here and there, and then we started the process. It was we had a problem with a flute player. I remember
What
we had to say
happened?
uh, we had to say in the middle of it, we got to we got to let this guy go. So literally a flute player, he left. He packed up his flute and he left in a huff. You know,
So you've been a musician since you were a kid, I was reading, but now what is it like for a musician to walk into Abbey Road Studios? Because it's a legendary name. I mean, I'm a Jersey guy. Like I'm a huge Springsteen fan. Okay, I've interviewed a bunch of guys from the band, and I'm always like awestruck. At Little Steven, and I'm awestruck. Like this is stuff I listen to. But for you as a musician to walk into such a legend, and it's legendary. Like everyone knows Abbey Road. What was that like? What did you like get teared up when you walked in? It was just a certain feel. What was that like?
it's an honor, really. It feels like an honor when you're there. I mean, you just know the history of the place. I mean, the Beatles alone. Obviously, the Beatles gave it that. I mean, the fame. I think the most fame, wouldn't you say? I would say.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, and so I mean, the crazy thing is there was a reenaction going on, with the bus and the whole that setup with the for one of the albums. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it was there was a whole reenactment taking place, and I was saying to Joe Curiel, I said, "What? Look at this, man! We hit a day when they're doing a reenactment." So we took our shoes off and walked across the street. Uh, but
So
yeah, go ahead.
so no, so when you're done recording, are you excited? Are you relieved? Are you a mixture of both? Are you happy? Because I know anyone who's an artist is very particular. We're all particular on our work. We're like, oh, yeah, I did this wrong or this, and you had a short time. What was your feeling when it said that's a wrap? Because you've been on TV and that's a wrap. But what
Yeah.
was it like when it wrapped for this project? Because it has to be something very special in your heart.
Yeah, it was like you said, a mixture of all those things because you put all this together and we have it, right? We've got it down, got it recorded. It sounds great. It sounds better than you could imagine. It's phenomenal feeling overall. And then the real work really began after that, is the editing and what I went through with putting this together because there was a time when I lost the whole thing. And it was great because I did this a long time ago. So, uh, so there's a time when I went and I remember my son, we were, because he's really into the music business. And I said, boy, doesn't it feel like the bottom end is not here? Doesn't it just not feel right? And, uh, and he said, yeah, let's go. We'll take it down to a studio in Hollywood. And I took it down there. And this is a few years after recording and everything. I was doing all the editing. I did all the editing on Pro Tools and I went down there and guy he listens to it, puts it up and it's a spectrometer. He runs it through. He says, you're missing the low end. I says, yeah, I know. This is what's been bothering me about this whole thing. So he says, yeah, well, that's because it's not there. So he says, what did you record it on? And like I say, this is a long time ago. This is on 2-inch tape. Okay. So, so, uh, so he says, where did you record it? And I told him, we did it at Abbey Road. And he says, oh, they've got different machines than here in the States. You have to make sure you have the right machine when you transfer it. So I went back. I had to go back. Now imagine I must have done, I don't know, 50,000 edits on Pro Tools, just to get this thing where I wanted it to start sounding right. But it never sounded right because I was always compensating for the bottom end, trying to, and then and I had to go rent the machines. I redid the whole thing. I went back into the entire transfer the right way. Then I took it to this guy over in Eagle Rock. He did all the transfers over for me onto Pro Tools. Did great quality. We got him perfect, and then I restarted the whole project again, man. So I almost gave up on it. I really did. I just figured, I'm doing the acting, I'm doing all the other stuff in the meantime. This has been like a passion project. And but I've always had the passion for that kind of music. I just love. I love being able to write a piece of music like what you heard, being able to sit down and not knowing where that's going to come from, but then all of a sudden there it is, and it's you know, so so yeah, I went through a long road and then went back and the blessing in disguise is the technology that exists now. So I was able to take all that, the recordings and go back in and use all the best plugins, all the God particle and all the different compressors and things, whatever I want. I had a whole new tool bag, that existed when we actually recorded it. And so anyway, it's literally historical at this point. It would fall into the historical realm uh, of music
You
because it's
mentioned something about all the tools
yeah.
we have now. And now, if you think back, like, because we grew up with different music, how did you ever think, like, what would have been the music for us, if there was all the tools and if it wasn't into the studio? Because it's so much easier now. But back then, there's masterpieces that came out. Listen to Springsteen, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles, all these Sabbath, all these great albums. Do you think the music industry would have changed? Do you think it would have been because anyone could have made music back then if there was the tools now? But back then, you had to be talented and really know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, remember when disco came along? Remember that? I mean, that was like, I remember I had a sticker in there, play disco or put a musician out of work or something like that. I can't remember the exact one, what it said, but we've gone through a lot of different stages in the music business, since when they recorded on a wire, I found an old wire that my father-in-law had because he was in the film business and he had a recording that was on a roll of wire. So the bandwidth of that is really narrow, So when you think about just how the bandwidth has expanded in music throughout the years to what it is today, and I can only imagine what it'll be, in the future, or what it'll be, I don't know, but we expanded to stereo, to quad, to total surround. I mean, we've expanded the sound and the bandwidth, you know. So, but I think what you were getting at was the amount of plugins and the things that we have at our fingertips. Is that what you're?
Right. Because you listen to if you listen to Led Zeppelin, Whole Lot of Love, all those weird sounds in it, all that stuff, or even like Supertramp, Breakfast in America, the sound is the old Mattel electronic football, one of the sounds. People were just really had to be creative outside the box. And I wonder if it would have changed if you could have just said, oh, okay, I'm just gonna push this and then we can do that.
I don't know. I think the real creativity still comes in the idea that you have in your head what you want to hear, because my son, he's Jason Evigan. He's one of the better producers in the business right now. A successful guy. He's got a incredible he's got an incredible line of success so far. His but and we talk a lot about what you're saying right now, and the thing that he does, and he still hears it in his head. He still hears, and I do the same thing. When I have an idea, sometimes I'll even imitate the instruments, or just to see what it's all going to sound like together. But but I think you can still you can take an old, like he took my HR-16, which is an old drum machine, right? And just this is a good example. He took my old HR-16. I said, take it. I paid $250 for it years ago. Alesis made it, and and so he took the snare drum off one of the snare drums off that Alesis, and he manipulated it in a way where he got it to where he wanted it, and that's on Demi Lovato's Heart Attack.
Oh wow.
So every time I hear that song, I think, my old HR-16's on there, but the point being that the creativity still lies with the producer, Now, every band in those days, I mean, you think of George Martin and think of the Beatles and the stories on how they may have never been what they were without him, or without incredible producers like that, because they were able to take what they recorded and make it into the sound that not only George Martin heard, but I mean that I think the Beatles always wanted. So so it's all really in the ears, it's in the mind, it's all and then you put it out there, you create it, and when you hear what you were going for, you know you're either really close or you're there, you know.
Now, when did you start playing music? When you were young, right? Was it in your ears? How did you know you wanted to play music? Because it's something that everyone when we're little wants to play music, but some of us just suck. We can't play it. I was awful. I sucked.
Yeah.
When did you start playing? When did you know? And how did you know that you had talent?
And, I started playing because my mom played piano, my father sang, and they were kind of a duet together when they first met, you know. Then she had children, and that was the end of that probably. But but I think, I started playing piano when I was 8 years old, classically trained. That's what she was, classically trained, Rhapsody in Blue, and, you know, Gershwin, and she was great. And my father, he always appreciated music because he loved to sing, loved to sit around, play songs on the piano, have him sing, you know. Uh, so I always, had an okay voice, you know. But I think when I first got the encouragement was in high school, not in high school, it was actually junior high, when they needed somebody for a play. It was the play Oliver, I remember, and the teacher said, what was her name? Miss McNamara. Yes, Miss McNamara. I haven't said that name forever. She said, Greg, could you sing this? And I said, oh, I don't know if I could sing it. She said, well, try singing this, you know. And I sang it, and she says, that's great. She says, you're in the play. And I said, oh, okay. Whether I want to be or not, I was in this play. So that gave me encouragement. When you're that age, you don't need much. You just need a little spark, you know. And I think she gave me the first spark of thinking, oh, I could actually sing. And then I got into the bands. I got in the first band. I remember it was the Carltons. That was the name of the band. It was in New Jersey, and I remember I played the keyboard. I had a keyboard, so it was if you have an instrument, you pretty much can be in a band, right? Hey, he's got an instrument. Is he good? It doesn't matter. He's got an instrument, you know. So yeah, so I did, and then I started that, and then I started, singing more and more, and singing ended up being the thing that, got me into Jesus Christ Superstar. So that was that's the thing that when I got off out of high school, I went through that summer of auditions, and that was it, man. I was on the road in Jesus Christ Superstar. So
So you did Jesus Christ Superstar. Then you went on to do Grease, right?
yeah,
Okay, and that was on Broadway.
yep.
Okay, so what is that like? You're Danny Zuko. You're in Greece. It's Broadway. I always hear. I've talked to a lot of actors. Always say, you know, the allure of Broadway, but then when you go into like the dressing rooms, they're like sort of some of are dingy. It's not like what you think, but
They're
it's
all
like
dingy.
yeah. So what was that like though? How old were you when you were on Broadway being the lead in a play?
Oh man, it was. I mean, for me, you think about it. Think of anybody who's in high school, right? I mean, you're in high school. You're just trying to get out of high school. You're figuring out what you want to do in life, and I always knew what I wanted to do. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to do something in the entertainment business. You know, I just didn't know how I was going to get there at all. And so so yeah, when I got in those shows, the first thing was the road. I was on the road, so I was in every dingy place on the road. Every 2 days, we are in a new dingy place. You know, and they all had the light bulbs, the single light bulbs that in those dressing rooms that everybody sat in front of to get ready for the show. And but Broadway definitely. When you're on Broadway, this is it. I mean, this is Broadway. It doesn't really get much better in theater when you think about it, right? I mean, can you think of anything? I'm trying to think. I think Broadway is considered like top notch. So there you are. I'm 17 years old, 18 years old, you know, on Broadway. So, the past was quickly going away. I mean, I'll always remember the great opportunities and all the things that led me to where I got to from high school, and the plays and the bands and all that. You never forget of that. But the demand on you now, like we're on the road, so that means I got to get up in the morning. We got to get up. We got to travel every day. We get to the next spot, 200 or 300 miles. Get up, set up, go have something to eat if you want, or wait to eat later, whatever. Then go do the show in front of a whole packed house every night. We never had an empty house. We always had a packed house, and we were in one of the hottest shows on the road. So it was undescribable, man. It was just you really thought you made it, you know?
Well,
You know.
you did. I mean, that's how I say, it doesn't, once you're a lead in the play, and if you're, I don't care where you're playing, I don't care if it's, community theater, you've made it somewhat because you're doing what you love. And, people can sit there and say, oh, well, they don't make a great living. But you know what? If they're happy and they're content, when I did stand up, man, when I first got those first few weekends, I was making 150 a weekend and I had a daytime sales job, but I couldn't have been happier. And I was like, who cares about the job? I felt successful because you're getting paid for what you love. And a lot of people overlook that.
No, you hit the nail on the head, man. I never thought I'd ever get paid for doing this stuff. Never thought. I mean, I got paid more money. Yeah, I mean, in high school for doing a gig, we would get like I remember we used to get $400 or $500 for the whole band or $600, and that's a long time ago. So that wasn't too bad. So so I didn't really, and when the first contract, I remember what it was for. So it was $350 a week for about $350 to $400 a week. And out of that, we had to pay for our own room. We had to pay for our food. The thing that we didn't pay for was obviously the transportation. And that's it. I mean, that's how much we made a week.
So,
That was, and then Broadway, by the way, Broadway was, I think, 200 and what was it, $220 with risk pay, because there was in the show, there was a drop on the stage. So if you fell in that hole, everybody got paid risk pay. A couple guys did fall in the hole and didn't see them again.
so you're doing this and you're loving it. So
You're loving it.
what brings you to LA? What makes you leave Broadway? The risk pay? Is that what it is? You said, I don't
Yeah,
want to fall in the hole.
it was the risk pay, man.
I'm going west, baby. I'm going west.
Yeah.
What made you go out to LA?
Well, I was I always looked at Broadway like after a while, once you do anything, right, you start to see the picture. You see the big picture. And I see a lot of people made a career out of Broadway and Broadway shows and just doing Broadway. That was it. They didn't want anything else. I had an opportunity to do that when I was doing Grease. They offered me the next contract. I mean, I think I could have done Grease. I mean, how long it ran. I probably could have done Grease for 8 or 9 years. Who knows? It's because you get a 9-month contract, and that's what you get, 9-month contract, and then you have to renew. And so I knew that the one thing I didn't want to do was I never wanted to get stuck doing one thing for too long. And I kind of realized that quickly that might be a mistake if I get stuck doing one thing too long. And the truth is, it was absolutely the truth when I did BJ and the Bear because that show, it was so popular that I could not get another job after that show. But so that proves the point of what I'm talking about. That I didn't even want to do. That I mean, I wanted to do the show, but I mean, I didn't want to not be able to work again at something else and become, typecasted into one role. You know what I mean? So to answer your question, though, what brought me out was just really that thought of I've got to go out there. I've got to try my luck at that one because that's bigger. In my mind, that was bigger than the Broadway. For me, for personal success. But some people, like you said before, they're satisfied and they're happy, and that's what makes them happy is doing plays and keeping that kind of lifestyle going. That's a whole career move. So and some people are very happy with that, and I was very happy with it when I was doing it. But I just didn't. I just wanted to try my luck at TV shows, sitcoms, all that stuff. I used to love watching All in the Family and all those shows. I mean, I wanted to get in something like that. I wanted to get in one of those shows, and so I got the opportunity when Don Kirshner was auditioning for A Year at the Top. That was the one that Paul Schaefer was in. Him and I did that together. And Donnie Scardino, who's also ended up being a big Broadway guy, director too. Josh Mostel, a whole bunch of people. And so that's really what took me out there. That gave me the opportunity. And there was no way I was turning that one down. So I went out there, I met Norman Lear, Don Kirshner, and Neil Bogart. And and started doing the show. There's a whole
How did how,
story.
how did you acclimate to LA coming from New York? Because it's quite different. And you said Broadway, you have you show after show after show, travel. TV, you got a trailer. You got, you know, you have long days, but you're not shooting the whole day. How is it? Because I was one of the stage actors, it always has to like just be eye opening. Like, man, we work our asses off, and you still do in TV, but there it's like 7 nights, and if you screw up on the stage, you're screwed. So you're not
No
stopping and going,
stopping.
oh,
That's right.
let's do it. So how did you start acclimating? How was it when you're at the top for you? Was it easy just because you were such a had so much chops, acting chops? Was it easy or what was it like?
Well, yeah, it was always, I think people wanted to hire you because they knew that if you're from the Broadway stage, you know how to finish a scene, you know, that's for sure. So, and that's something that, if if you say you just started from film, you can get in that habit of, let me take that again, Well, you can't just take it again when you're on stage, right? You have to, you don't take it again. You finish the scene no matter what. So that's something that I was always able to do because that's the way I was trained. And I kind of made it, I realized later on that it's a great thing to do as an actor because, if you're in a scene and you feel like you're going up on a line or something like that, and you have the instinct when you're working in film, you have the instinct to say, maybe I'll just let me stop and take another one. Well, I got a thing. I made sure that I never did. I said, no matter what, you've got to finish this scene. No matter what, you gotta limp your way through. You gotta fake your way through. You gotta do whatever it takes to get through this scene and end it. You may get another one after, but you'd be surprised on the little unique little things that people capture on film when people are struggling. When they're struggling, it's the struggle that's the most interesting thing. Is what I'm trying to get at. The struggle is always the most interesting thing, and that's why an actor, when you say, "Well, we're rehearsed, we got it down," good for you, but it may not be as exciting as or as interesting as when you don't have it down.
So okay, so you're acting now. How does BJ and the Bear come about? And I want to talk about the success of that because I always talk to younger people and I go, there was a time when we only had a few networks and if you were on a show, millions were watching you. If you were on a hit show, millions were watching. But
Yeah.
how did BJ how did you get the part of BJ and the Bear? Was it a long audition process or what happened?
No, it was short. It was amazing because I was on my way out of town. I was done. I said, I'm done with this. Things aren't happening the way I was thinking. The show that I came out for, we went through 3 years of trying to make it happen. They couldn't make it happen, and I'm doing guest star things, and I think I might go back and try my luck at Broadway again. And or at least go back east and see what I can do. And and then my agent said, "Hey, I got this audition though. It's going to be a big show. You should go in and meet the producer, and he'd love to meet you." I said, "Oh yeah, what is it?" He says, it's this guy's in a truck. He's travels around the country, and he's got a chimp with him." I said, "What?" She's, I said, "Are you kidding me?" She says, "No, no, it's going to be big. It's going to be a big show." I said, "I don't know about that. And so I said, she says, "Just go in. It's no big deal. Just I'll send you the lines. Just go in. I know you're leaving town. Just go in." Well, I go in, and this was an audition like no other one that I've probably ever had since or before, for sure. Um, and there's a camera set up, 35 millimeter camera. There's a truck. There's a whole crew. It's like a screen test. Okay. And that's what a screen test is for people out there that don't know. That's what it is. And a chimp made of fur sitting next to me in the thing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? All right, whatever. So the whole big thing was, and I've told this story before, but I'll tell you, it's about attitude. And my attitude was, I don't care. I just don't care. It's going to be over in a couple minutes. Let me go in. I'll just do these lines. I put the lines right on the steering wheel. I started doing the lines and just had this attitude. I mean, it wasn't like I was going to throw it away completely. I don't like to do that no matter what. No matter what, I'm going to go in and give it a good shot. But I just didn't care. I had an attitude. Whatever happens, no big deal. As opposed to, I really want this job. You know, there's a big difference in what you put out there. So I went in, did it. As I'm walking out, Glenn Larson comes running up to me. He goes, "Hey, you're really right for this role." I said, "Oh, okay, great, thanks." He goes, "All right, well, look, I'm going to be, we're going to be calling you." I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." I said, "Thanks." And I didn't really know who Glenn Larson was at the time. I just figured it's some guy. So, so I leave, and by the time I get back to my apartment, I've got my tape run out all out of my machine with my call me, you got to call me. What did you do? How did you do it? What? And I'm like, I didn't do anything. So literally, it was one audition. That was it.
So you get that part. Now, when does a show start becoming a hit? And what was it like working with the Chip?
You got to put $5 in the jar. That's the question. What was it like working the Chip? And did you really drive the truck? You got to put five. uh, it was great working with the Chimp. The Chimp he was the best, finest actor, fine actor. You know, he's so natural. And so so he's uh I think it was pretty much a hit really quick because we did the pilot. I remember that. And then they aired the show against the first run of Network. Remember Network? Remember that I'm mad as hell. I'm gonna
Yeah.
take it. Uh, and so I think what happened was, and I know this is the truth, Fred Silverman did not want a chimp on his network. I know that at the time. And he was more into, the police shows and the different, he didn't want that kind of show on his network. So he figured, I'm going to kill it. I'll put it up against network and then, you know, so we got a 47 share. Now, for anybody out there that wonders what a 47 share is, if you get close to a one share right now, if you get close to a one, you're a hit. So 47 is half the country in one night, pretty much. So, so nah, it was literally the next day I went out the door. Anywhere I went, people would start looking, and then after a couple shows were on, it was like no matter where you went, you got, you know,
You became like instant the heartthrob because you're a good looking guy. I remember all the girls in my high school loved you. So I
uh,
mean, how did that has to change your life because no matter what you're set for, to sit there and have women just like, oh my God, oh my, I mean, how do you deal with that? Because I mean, one, it was for you, it fell in your hands sort of because you didn't care if you got it, you were leaving. But how do you adjust to a lifestyle like that? Because as you said, 47 share. Back then millions of people were watching. Everyone knows who you are because we only had a few TVs, you only had a few stations. So how
right.
does a young man adjust to that, especially in Hollywood? Because I know in Hollywood, wherever you go, if you're a star, I used to work wait tables for Planet Hollywood. Whoever came in, you got stuff for free. So I mean, your life must have just changed overnight. I mean, could you go out, or were just women swapping on you?
Well, what you do is you get married. See, I, I got married. I mean, people are saying, "What are you crazy getting married now?" I said, "Well, this is the way it goes, and we've been together ever since." And it that really did change. It really did change things because young teenagers, excuse me, when you're looking at the magazines and everything, you know, they do want the fantasy of a single guy, right? It's like this guy's available, I can, so but the way it went for me is, I got married and we had children. We started having our first child. So the articles changed, it wasn't the same, same. But no, just the fame of it though was really, it was great. I mean, seriously, to experience that in my lifetime, it's another thing to experience, and you also have to experience what it's like when that goes away. So there's, so it's a roller coaster. You can't make that's not that's not who you really are. It's just the perception of you. So it's not who I am. It's not it's not it's not unenjoyable. I enjoy when somebody remembers the show now, or or says they loved it, or because what we do, we all love to be loved for what we do. If you're a musician, you want people to love your music. If you're a singer, they want you to love your voice. So, so yeah, it was great to have that experience. And my kids all had that experience, which is really incredible. They've all had that in their careers too. And I've watched how I probably learned more from watching me reacting to them and their success than my own because I was so young when I had it. So
Well, what happened to the show? Why did it end?
it ended because of the strike and because of the I actually had to sue to get my last checks, to get the last 7 checks. And it took me 6 years to get my money, but I was determined to get it because it was in black and white. It was like, you owe me this money, called pay or play, you know. So, but yeah, it ended because of that. It ended because of the strike, not because the people didn't like the show. And it ended also in a way because I think it was the opportunity for the network to not have that show on their roster. I think,
Now
you
you said earlier, you're getting stuck in a certain role and breaking out of it. What was it like for you when you sat there? You lost the show's gone, so that check's gone. Your network check
yeah,
is good. It's good money,
yeah.
and the fame. People still know you, but you're not doing the show every day. And you said you couldn't work for a while. What was the letdown? Did you deal with depression, or did you sit there? Did you just get back up on the horse right away when the strike was over? I mean, what was your path after that?
Well, I had a good agent. I had a good man. Let me see. I have a manager. I think I had a good agent. So I'm trying to think if I had a manager at the time. But main thing for me was the agent, and I was with ICM. I was with another one called Triad. There was a couple different agencies that I had that were really good, and so they already had me working on the next show. So I was doing movies of the week. I mean, I did like 50 movies of the week, and all those different guest star appearances on whether it's Battle of the Networks or whatever it is. There was always good money in all those things, and they really had me on, for the next series, trying to get the next series. You just kind of, it's like, if you're a working actor in this business and you want to maintain being that status of a working actor. I mean, you may get incredible like Tom Hanks success or Tom Cruise, which your name has to be Tom. So
Right.
yeah. But so to what if you get that kind of success, of course, that's a whole nother deal. But I mean, as a working actor, somebody who, had big success and then I'm on to what's the next thing, you try, I did when I did Deep Star Six, that movie, I thought that was going to be a really good breakout thing for me, feature in the feature world. But it was okay, but it wasn't enormous. So the way it goes for people, it's all different versions of success. For me, it's been kind of working actor, 55 years of different shows, different movies, different series, and then
Now,
came my dads.
now tell me about My Two Dads. Yeah, because I love that show. I was a big fan. I said I was a huge Paul Reiser fan, and you were on, so it's two people you know. And I said when I started doing stand up in like 87, 88. I knew Paul Reiser in the movie Diner and the show, and I loved the show. And you guys had really good chemistry, and that's hard sometimes because sometimes stand-ups seem to be a little more introverted than people think. People think that stand-ups are very outgoing, but I think they're a little bit shyer, and then they come on with the camera. How did that show come about? And were you excited to do a sitcom? Because, a sitcom must have been fun and it's not the hour grind. It's more half hour and, more stage somewhat.
Yeah. I was I was excited about doing a sitcom, but I wasn't excited about playing a dad on a sitcom. I thought that would take me, into a realm that leading actor kind of. I just didn't want to play a dad on a sitcom. But my agent at the time said, "Oh, Greg, you got to go in and meet Michael Jacobs. He's a great guy. He really wants you for the role, and Paul Reiser's doing it, and it's going to be a really good cast." And I went in and I met him, and sure enough, it was he convinced me quick. In fact, so quick that we went to the network the same day. So it was another thing that came about so quick. I mean, I went to the network to audition. Literally, the network has to approve you for these things.
How did you get convinced so fast? What was it that made you sit there and go, I want this project?
I guess Michael Jacobs just he said kind of all the right things to me at the time that I wanted to hear, which was I could have a beard because I didn't. I wanted to get rid of the other look. As an actor, I'm like, how do I get to the next look? How do I get to the next thing? Because we're actors, right? We're thinking of that, not other peripheral things. But what's my next role? How challenging is it going to be? Where's it going to take me? What's the image going to be? All those things that you kind of try to think you can figure out uh, as you go along. So, so I think that was, the beard was great. Michael said, "Sure, you're a New York artist. Have a beard." I said, "Okay, well, that's it. Have a beard. Let's go to the network." So I went over and then, once we got going, I got to co-write the theme song too. So that was good. I got to always trying to get the music in there at the same time too. So, but it was really quick. The two biggest shows I had happened like that.
Now,
You know,
did you feel that you and Paul were good because you look good on screen? Did you guys have a good working chemistry? Because I said you're a stage actor, he's a comic. You both are used to thinking on your feet. It probably you probably really jammed it quick. And if you got stuck, you probably could improv a little bit because you both have that skill.
yeah. Yeah. We did a couple, there was a few shows where something happens on the stage and it's not what anybody planned in any rehearsals. And because we did the show live, it was a live show. So two tapings on Tuesday. So one at 3 o'clock and one at 6 o'clock. Anything that went wrong at 3, we tried to fix at 6. And I remember we had something happen. You just sparked this in my mind. Something happened with the coffee and the sugar, and we were supposed to be up for a long time, and we ended up improving on the coffee. And I, like, while I was talking and I was angry, I was just pouring more sugar and more. I didn't even realize it. And then all of a sudden, I realized that the audience was picking up on this, and they were cracking up. And then we just went with this whole thing, and we improv for like 2 minutes. I don't even know if they were able to use it all. I don't think, but it was really what I always wanted the show to be like. But that's not, it's not it wasn't Larry David, you know what I mean? In those days, it wasn't, it wasn't that type of Curb Your Enthusiasm format, it was, it was, you know, line, line, joke. So, and then what I liked when Chuck Lorre did a show, like when Chuck Lorre, he was on our show. That's one of the first shows he ever did. Uh, um, and I used to love it was a Chuck Lorre script because I knew there'd be physical humor as well as, you know, as well as the jokes.
Well, it's funny because yeah, you're right. Back then it was joke, but you're in front of a live audience. So it's a matter of now you can't back then you needed to get the laughs, just like stand up. You had to get laugh. Now people, it's the form industry has changed, but back then, and people expected it because you sat there, as you said, watching All in the Family, watching all these shows we used to watch, Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days, laugh, joke, laugh, joke. So, that was the scenario back then. So you're on My Two Dads, and you're enjoying it. Why did that end? Was it the contract right now? Because it was what, 3 seasons or four? Because it
It
was
was
60 episodes.
it was 3 seasons, yeah, 65. I think it was 65 episodes. Pretty
I think
sure.
60.
Oh, really? Okay, 60. Um, it was I think what really happened with that was Michael Jacobs at the time, he got dinosaurs. He got that with Disney. And he as the producer, with the relationship with the network, um, his attention was kind of leaving our show, going over to dinosaurs. Although Bob Meyer and uh, Bob Meyer came in, Bob Young, they were a good team, writing team, and they were running the show. So I don't know. I thought we were doing some of our best shows because we were, we just I don't know. The writing was still great, and we all found our stride. We all got our stride. So I think I think we were doing some of our best shows by season three, which is the way it's supposed to be. If you get season four and five, then you're really cooking if you really care. So, and if the writing is there. So I think we were right at our stride when we got canceled. It was a kid. It was too bad that we got canceled. But yeah, that's the way it goes, man. It's just, and then there was another writer's strike or something too. I remember right around that time. We got to look that one up. But I got bad luck with the writer's
I know. I was
strikes.
gonna say these strikes are really
Yeah.
screwing you over, Greg. It's not
Yeah.
good. So okay, so
Tell
what
me.
now? When you're done that show, you just had a sitcom and it was great writing. And you had a great cast. What do you plan now? I know you're an actor, so you take any role, but did you want to focus on sitcoms, or did you worry you ever gonna have to shave your beard? I mean, what path did you personally want to take? Did you, if it had gone the way you said I would do this, would you have tried to get another sitcom, or did you want to get back to drama?
Well, I think what happened was I got another series right after that in 1991 with um, that was P.S. I Love You. Yeah, that was another Glenn Larson show, and it was a good premise. It was a really good premise. You remember it? It was we were both put in the witness. Connie Selleck and I were put in the
Okay.
witness protection program. So, and that was kind of a something that was happening, and people were talking about witness protection program at the time. So it was a great premise, a new, not new, but it was new to TV, and I think there's a few shows or movies that went in that direction. So it took place in Palm Springs, and we did 13 episodes. It was a good show. It was coming out good. Earl Hollerman was the boss, and he put us in the witness protection program. And we were two cops from New York, and it was just another. And then it didn't make it past 13, and that was again. And now once again, here we go.
It
Next,
it's crazy. No, no, no. I heard, and I don't know if this is true. Glenn Larson created Knight Rider, right?
yeah,
Now, did you pass on that?
yeah, I did.
Okay, but looking back though, and I always think about this. I know people who've been on Big Hit Show. A guy I know was on ER, and he left to follow his acting career. And looking back at it though, your career would have been completely different. But I doubt. I mean, but you probably wouldn't have had all the experiences. And I mean, I always think about. Sometimes people think, oh, you missed, Knight Rider. But then once again, as I said, you're with a chip. Now you don't want to talk to a car. You want to be, and you want to have a beard. So, I mean, do you sit there and I think, do you consider that somewhat of a blessing in disguise? Because I think it would be, because once again, you already had that huge with BJ and the Bear. Now you're getting older. Your kids are growing older, I'm guessing. You probably don't want that kind of constant barrage of attention.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. I don't really have any regrets on the way. Well, I'm lucky enough to have those shows, to be able to go from something like BJ and the Bear to My Two Dads, and then all the other shows in between and after. And so, yeah, I would say I don't have any regrets in that. No, none at all.
Now,
No.
how was Melrose? How was Melrose Place? Because you're in that once again, you're on these hits, these shows that get big crowds. So what was Melrose like? Because once again, Melrose was a big show.
Yeah, that was good. It was uh, Matt. That's right. I was working with Matt mostly, and I had to play. I think I was the gay psychologist. That's right. So yeah, that was. My kids didn't like me doing it. They didn't like having to go to school. My son didn't want to go to school because you know, hey, your dad's playing the gay psychologist, and things like that. My kids always. I didn't realize till later on, and they told me, sometimes how they would get the business for things that I've done in school. I mean, I've done with the shows. You know, so yep. But that was good. It was a good chance to do some acting. It was it was written fine. It was and and the relationship with him and that the whole thing was us. I didn't even hardly meet any of the other people on the show, maybe a few of them, but yeah, that was it was another good experience. I think I did six, something like that. I think
12,
six,
12.
12. Okay,
Yeah, 12.
all right,
See,
12.
now, you've acted for a long time. How has the industry changed in your eyes? Everyone says, I mean, I'm sure, everyone, it seems like everyone has to audition now. And they want everyone to do a self-tape. And actors who are like or stage or who come from old school are used to that room because it's that spark, it's that chemistry. I mean, look, if you did BJ and the Bear on a self-tape, it probably wouldn't it would have had a different, you wouldn't have been able to give that, I don't give a crap, you know?
Completely. Yeah.
So what do you like? I mean, do you still audition or do you get role or do you get call for roles? I mean, or how has the industry changed? Because it seems like there's a lot of projects now, but there's like hard for actors to get work because there's like everything's 10 episodes or 8 episodes. Or what's it like for someone who's been in and has had a great amount of success? How do you look at the industry now?
Man, that's a good question. I I don't really want to participate in that, So that's kind of a choice that I made. I just chose to do this. I built the studio and I want to do I want to work on music. I've always had the passion for it. Um, I've never been able to work on it purely because my attention's always been on, split between the two, and family, of course. And so I feel like I can talk to a younger person that's in the business, but the thing is that's all they know. They don't know what it used to be like completely. They just know that this is the way it is. And unfortunately for them, they won't get that feeling that you get when you walk in a room. My whole thing was always put me in the room. I'm going to get that job. Put me in that room. And and I could see what they're looking for. I could see what the casting director's looking for. I could tell what the director, a lot of times the director say, "Great, that was great. That was really great. Can you do this? Can you just do it this way? Just add this one little element, you know?" And adding that one little element and proving to the director that you can add that one little element, that it's not going to throw you off at all. Sure, I can make that adjustment. Boom. I do it. He's like, "Thank you. Great." And then you get the call. Now, there's nobody on that tape. There's nobody when they're looking at your tape that you send into cyberspace that you never get any reaction to. Uh, Nobody is going to be able to give you that little note to change to say, "Hey, can you try this?" So I think it's a disservice, honestly, to actors, and I think it's a shame. In fact, I was with when I was I was with the Screen Actors Guild on the board for about 4 years. Yeah, it must have been about 4 years ago too. And that was one of the things I was trying to get was done was get a pilot program so that we could make the producers have to pay a little more to get everybody in these rooms that they want us to be in instead of our own house. But then again, I talked to other people that are actors. They like it because they feel like they're in control of it. But see, I still come back to this. What I talked about before is it's not good to be in control all the time. It's better to be out of control or in some sort of control, but never knowing what's coming up next is really what makes things the most interesting. So the challenge is taken away by doing self tapes because I've helped people out with self tapes too. I've a couple people come over here to the studio, and I'll say, "Yeah, I'll do it for you." We'll go against this wall and do it. No matter what, they're still just in the thing that they think it is instead of, and I'll say, "Hey, maybe try this, uh, okay. But they don't really want to go out of that. You know what I mean? So I think it's a disservice. I'll just end it with that on that, on that subject. I think it's a disservice that's happened over the years and it's convenient for producers. They don't have to pay for it. And
Exactly.
somehow talent comes through, no matter what, I guess they find talent. I mean, there's some great shows on TV, and um, like all the stuff that's on Paramount, all the Yellowstone and all those. I mean, all
Right.
those shows. I think they're great. They're great shows, and but overall, a disservice to actors.
Okay. Two more
Let's
quick
just say it.
things. Two more quick
Is that?
things. I'll let you get on here. One, the music. Okay,
Yeah.
you did the Royal Philharmonic. What kind of music do you want to do now? Do you want to stay in the classical genre with the piano, or do you? Because I saw your on your website, you're going to re-release the '80s sound. What is it? '80s Sound City sessions, and then slow down. What music do you want to do now? What kind of music at this point in your age? and your love of music that you want to play? What are you creating?
Well, I've in the last 2 years, I've done a bunch of demos that are more like, pop rock in that area, like I did before, but a little more. I think the productions are really, really nice, really good. So what I've done is I'm taking the best of those, and some of them have other voices on them, and I'm going to take the ones that fit, and I want to put another album out, like a pop R, not pop R&B, but pop rock, I would say more, album out, and so I've got that, and then I've got 8 more pieces in the genre. I'll just show you this while we're here. Anybody who's watching, we've got I've got these. You can go to evigan.com for these, right? That's if you still anybody who still likes
Yeah.
these. Or if the album, I've got the vinyl too. So I've got I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that?
Oh yeah, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. So I got the vinyl. And so I want to do another one of those. I want to continue on the road, not necessarily the Abbey Road, but on the road of making this type of music, And of course, the dream for me is somebody picks up on it, and like a Spielberg or somebody, picks up and says, "Man, I love that piece. Can we do something around that?" And that would be of course, every artist wants that. You want to fall into that kind of work situation. And but I do have 8 more pieces that I've written that I'm feeling pretty good about. So I got those, and then the new album with me sing because I want to sing. That's the thing that singing is definitely what I enjoy.
Cool.
So
Okay, one
yeah,
final question. Looking
yes,
back at your career, you've had a great career. It's
yeah.
so funny. You've had big hits. You've worked constantly. You have music going out. What are a few things, or one or either one professional or whatever you want to say, professionally and personally? What are a few things that make you proud? What are you proud about? What is Greg Evigan proud about when he looks back on his whole life right now? What are you proud of?
Well, I would say I'm proud that I've always kind of gone with the things that I believed in. So I didn't compromise, or I didn't move away from the things that I've always believed in. Whether I'm wrong or right about it, it doesn't matter. It's just I think everybody has to have the conviction. You have to have the conviction to go after the things that your passion leads you to. Let's put it that way. Um, and I think sticking with the music and getting this done, honestly, this was a big one for me. If I didn't, I mean, I would wake up in the morning literally for years and just like it was like somebody was knocking at my head, going, "Hey, you didn't finish it. Hey, you didn't get it out." You know. So at least I've got it out. I've got it done. I know I can do it. Um, you know, uh, and then be able, and family is absolutely the number one thing for me. I got a bunch of grandkids, and I've got 2 more coming, and so I think never sacrificing my family or throwing them under the bus in any way for this business has been a feat, in a lot of ways, because I have the relationships now with them that proves that you know that we were close. They understood what it was like. In fact, they all understood well because they got in the same business, so they know what the time frame is and what it takes to really go after what you want in life. And so I say just living a full life, you know, has been great. And I'm the kind of guy I love the outdoors, so that's another thing that pulls me back. I mean, I'll take a vacation, I'll go someplace because it's a great hike and not come back for 3 days. I mean, when we were talking about New York and leaving New York and coming to LA, one of the biggest distractions for me in LA was how beautiful it was. I mean, I could not. I mean, all I wanted to do was go to an island, or go up to see the redwoods, or do this or do that. I didn't care about even working. So I never thought. In a lot of ways, a lot of what I did as for a living fell by the wayside because I was more interested in being a young guy out there, you know, fishing and camping and all that stuff. So full life, So
You lived a great life, Greg. I'm glad we got to talk today. People, go to evigan.com. Go buy the CD or the album. Go buy it. It's very good. I liked it. Dusk is good. I listen to it. It's good. It's relaxing. And sometimes I get high strung, and I listen to rock and roll a lot or new wave. And I was like, something like this brings you down. And it's always, you should always listen to classical music or put on some jazz sometimes, and they'll both really soothe your soul. So I want to thank you. People go check them out. Go to my website, coopertalk.net. You can find 1,072 episodes there. You can email me at coopertalk.net. Don't remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guest. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you next time.